Hello everyone, and welcome to our session on making PIM a priority. Joining us today is Richard Lee from Dynamicweb. And before I pass it on over to Richard, I would like to remind you that this session is being recorded and it will be posted to our on-demand webinar library later this week for you to review and share. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will get them answered at the end of the presentation. And now I will pass it on to Richard to kick off our presentation.
Thanks so much, Angie, and thank you for Innovia for hosting us today and for your partnership. So today I'm going to take us through and talking about the PIM that's built into Dynamicweb. And let's start off with a little bit about Dynamicweb. So Dynamicweb is an all-in-one integrated e-commerce solution. And we have these built-in key components to manage and grow a high-performance e-commerce site. So for example, we have the content management system, the e-commerce and all the mechanics related to that, built-in digital marketing, including very advanced user segmentation. And now our latest feature of our all-in-one solution is the PIM, or Product Information Management. So before we go into what the how it works and operates, let's just point out what the PIM is used for. And I find that showing the diagrams of how you may have seen it in the wild is often how people know a PIM. I ask friends who work in big companies, do you use a PIM? And they look at me puzzled. But in the end, when I ask them, do you use a bunch of Excel files to combine information from your print catalog, from your website, to create like a master product information list that combines information that came in from a bunch of Excel files, maybe in ERP, the print catalog and all that, then of course they nod and are also frustrated by that kind of method of maintaining things. And if it's not just, you know, the ERP and print catalog and web, then there's also handwritten information as well as web-only information, where that web information was not fed in from an ERP. It was just manually keyed into a website, and then the website ended up being a unstructured database, if you will, of content. So what Dynamicweb aimed to do was, because PIM as a solution, as a technology designed to help people with culling this information together, collecting it, and then enriching it, adding product information to it, and adding it to it from many different people. Like, let me show you this diagram here. Like, so imagine this product cycle here. We collect that information. So where does it come from? So notice this collect bears the same color as these guys here. So suppliers, it comes in from other repositories containing text, pictures, and video. It may come in from Excel files. It comes in from ERP systems and other databases of sorts. So one or more of these is where content or product information comes from. And then the goal is to enrich it with more details. Now, if we're talking a B2B portal, as we do, the B2B portal is usually a very easy way for B2B customers to go in and place orders very quickly. And commonly they want just a SKU, no pictures, and put in quantities, and then they're done. But some channels need product information in a very rich form, and that could be commonly B2C. You know, online, when you're searching for products by, let's say, consumer electronics companies like LG or Sony or Samsung, that product information is pretty much the information that came in from the manufacturers of those products. But the downside is that if you Google, you know, Samsung or LG TV screen, all the information about it, you're going to find many same websites containing the same information. This is where the opportunity, if you are, let's say, a distributor of those electronics and your audience is B2C or B2Bs that really want that information, all those details, then that's where it's up to your team to enrich that product information with the details that transcend or above and beyond what LG might give to you, or other of those third-party companies that collect it for everybody. That unique information that you produced, those unique videos or those unique unboxing videos that you or your team made, that you can enrich with the product information. And there are different people on your team that do that, right? There are salespeople, there's a brand manager, a product manager, and then you have marketing people, you have technical people. The technical people might be not adding all the content, but they're only adding content related to the technical specifications of it. So if you're selling, um, let's say food for sensitive stomachs, and so all the technical details of, like, the nutritional information, is this, can you take this with this type of food or this type of medication? That's where a more technical aspect of product information, or that technical person, is contributing to that information. But a marketing person may be more interested in, like, I want to make sure that all the meta descriptions or meta other meta information, et cetera, are all intact before we go live with these products. So different people have different goals and intents around that product information. And then when you're done, it's time to sell this information or promote it online or present it online to a specific channel. And so e-commerce is one of those channels. So B2B, B2C, any other type of dealer portal, employee portal, you name it, type of portal. Mobile, of course, it has to be mobile friendly on any of those channels. But then there's also the option of print. So you may have a catalog, or you have a sales sheet, one single sheet per product. Imagine you're going to a portal where it's driven by the PIM, and you could select 5 products. It takes all of those 5 single sheet sales sheets and combines them into like a mini 5-page catalog with the pagination and everything. So that's where print, we can dynamically generate catalogs or PDFs based on PIM information, and depending on the audience, they have access to it in various degrees of details and exposure. And then also pushing it out to third-party marketplaces like Amazon, Wayfair, and the like. So, so with Dynamicweb, let me just paint it back a little bit here. Dynamicweb started off as an e-commerce solution, and back in 1999, coming in from Denmark, we have content management, e-commerce, and marketing. And as far back as 2 years ago, we didn't have the PIM fully in place, but conversations were all about it. And the concept was that we already have a single integration point to the ERP side. And PIM is commonly a third-party technology tool that's used agnostically with, regardless of the ERP system using, regardless of the e-commerce system you're using. It's a third-party system that you put in your information and product information. You do the enrichment as well with your various team members, and then you're connecting it to your e-commerce solution to save money, to save time. Certainly in the integration point, that single integration point into Dynamicweb benefits the e-commerce, benefits the marketing, and benefits the PIM as well. So there, that single solution where PIM is often spitting information out to the B2B and B2C channels, we already had and owned those channels. And that's why we thought the PIM was like the most appropriate add-on for our growing feature set. All right, so let's just have a couple of more looks here at the different types of companies using a PIM. So there would be, let's say, manufacturer, there's the wholesaler or distributor, and then there's also the retailer. And in the manufacturer, the sources of information are coming in from the ERP side or product lifecycle management systems. They're also internally developing technical information. There's subcontractors that are providing information, outsourced parties, and then other like user guides, certifications, whatever, depending on who that manufacturer is, what those other details are. But then there's the enrichment part. This is where the team of various, from marketing, technical to actual product managers, they go in and they enrich it. Now, Dynamicweb hailing out of Denmark, we are already, multi-language sensitive. So that's our platform supports multiple languages from content, but also from the content from a perspective of the product catalog. But when it comes to product information, you may have your site in English, but now suddenly you're going to be selling to, let's say, some African countries that speak French. So the product catalog may have to be translated, or product information needs to be translated across. And our platform not only supports all the various team members inside your office or in your team, it also supports external contractors or people who are translators or people who will add more product information. We can expose them to certain aspects of the PIM without giving them access to the back end of Dynamicweb. And then how will they distribute this from a manufacturer's perspective? They're going to do it through various e-commerce channels like I painted, and other distribution channels which may go out to partners or other marketplaces. And then if I navigate from manufacturer to distributor, who's also like a wholesaler, it's only slightly different in terms of what they're going to be enriching with. And then same with retailers, they may be the ones that are exposing or providing the most rich information for their audience, because it's more B2C, and when people are shopping online, they're using for maybe the keywords that they use to search. But at the end of the day, when they find a website that's rich, full of information and multimedia versions of that information, those are usually the sites that win their trust because they provided so much information. So product information isn't just for management internally, it's also for essentially great search engine optimization, or a great way of bringing customers in because they're Googling or capable of Googling you and finding more details, and then they earn your trust faster and more thoroughly. So let's dive now into the back end of Dynamicweb to see how the platform supports this PIM solution. So really quickly, just to paint out where we are inside of our platform, we're in the back end of a demo solution that I have set up over here. If you're curious, the front end looks like this, but we're not really going to be working on the front end. We're really only working on the back end of the solution. And just like I painted before, we call ourselves all-in-one, or actually Gartner referred to us that way, but we also refer to us as more than a shopping cart. And the concept again is that, when you have a website, you have it as a platform, often you have to turn to third parties to fill in the blanks that platforms cannot do on their own. And commonly, that may be like marketing. Marketing is often where people turn to Constant Contact or MailChimp to provide their email marketing. And we do email marketing built in, but where we stand apart from that is our capabilities around really segmenting users. I want to see all the users who live in, all the customers that live in South Bend, Indiana, are buying these products, are favoriting these items. So a blend of transactional information plus information related to the customer experience on our website. We're capable of tapping into that and really targeting those people. But here we are starting off with the PIM. And when we land inside the PIM in our solution, the first thing we're greeted with is this really big display of our dashboard. And the dashboard here in this case is completely editable by the admin who's logged in. And with Dynamicweb, you can have as many back-end users, admin users as you want. And our admins have various different roles that you can give them. Some may have only access to e-commerce. Some have access to the PIM. But technically, like PIM, what it is in our case, because we already have the e-commerce solution behind the scenes as well, is that the PIM is it's a direct way of accessing the product catalog. If I were to go inside of e-commerce, and here numerous things go inside of e-commerce, like latest orders, but also the product catalog. And a little bit about the product catalog here is that with an integration to Nav or AX or D365, Business Central, finance and operations, F&O, we have access to the product that way, and it's constantly being synced up with it. So let's say every 5 minutes, something like the product catalog is we're looking for deltas in every 5 minutes and then bringing them over, so that there's little to very little impact on the ERP in terms of performance. We're not constantly querying it, nor are we doing a constant live lookup, unless it's a B2B customer, then we need to see their pricing information, access to the inventory and all that. But in the product catalog, I can access the product catalog here. I can go here to the bikes category and then the subcategory of mountain bikes, and then I can see the product details here. And most of this is backed by your NAV or AX or D365. And I can see all the details over here. But then if I want to enrich this with information, let's say I wanted to go to a section like at the very bottom here, let's say, I'm sorry, here, keywords, right? I want to allow customers to find these keywords, to use these keywords when they're on the website to find the product better, right? If they know mountain bikes, of course, that's an easy term to use. But what if this mountain bike were featured on a TV show? And we know that, we're aware of it. We were, you know, it's almost product placement that we paid for. When customers type in that specific TV show, then that product will appear in the search results when they do it on the front end of the website. And that's another example of enrichment. This is enrichment around keywords for finding products on the website, whereas you could do enrichment around a product and it's all of its glorious details about, you know, how it performs, how it looks in, you know, some actor standing next to it, how it operates riding on sand if it's one of those fat tire bikes, etc. So all sorts of that information can be done, and you could do it right now. And back in the early days of using Dynamicweb, you could do it right here inside the product catalog. But where it begins to limit is that it's really one person at a time, and you can't manage products like side by side and seeing how, okay, this English product, let's see how it appears for Norway as a different language. So Norwegian. So I might not speak Norwegian, but at least I can see as the data filled in on the left side and the right side. So let me show you that. So when I go here to PIM, and let's dive into the section over here. So again, the dashboard is where we see things as an admin. I'm logged in, but let's say Angie were logged in. She could see her own metrics as she wishes to see, and she can customize it to her needs. Then when we go to warehouses, the warehouse and the concept of it is just like in traditional showroom in a brick and mortar store. You have the showroom, let's say furniture store, it's beautiful showroom, and you can sit on the couches, you can sit on the beds, you can pretend it's your living room. But behind the scenes, behind that wall where the last bed is located, is the warehouse. And in that warehouse, it's not the prettiest of places. It's not like a warehouse setting like IKEA in a way. You have kind of a warehouse and a showroom combined together. Hard to tell where the difference is. But in the PIM and behind the scenes, the warehouse is where we organize the grouping and subgrouping of products. And that's also where we further can add in attributes or characteristics of this. And that's where you're essentially establishing the way in which product information is collected and kept together. And then the enrichment part can happen inside of warehouses. It can also happen in this upper part here known as queries and shared queries, essentially queries. And either it's a query belonging to me as an admin or to Angie as an admin, or queries that you share with your entire team. So all those people in this diagram over here up at the top, like different types of people related to brand or product enrichment, those different people would have maybe their own queries to find things, right? When we're going to go into the queries and all that. But let's start off with the warehouse related to PIM and bikes and equipment. Now, let me just show you here on the front end here with the front end of this demo. So Rapido Bikes is the name of the site. Bikes here, we have it organized as the category of bikes. and then the subcategory of the type of bikes. We have mountain bikes, road bikes, hybrid bikes, etc. And when we operate on the PIM on the back end, it doesn't have to automatically possess the same look and feel of the front end of where one of the many channels that this can speak to. Because when we look on the back end, instead of it having as bikes and then mountain bikes, road bikes, hybrid bikes, we're going to the brand first. So in the bike world, Mongoose is a real brand. So is K2, GT, and so forth. So if I open up Mongoose, they sell mountain bikes, road bikes, hybrid bikes. Now, I added e-bikes. I'm not sure if they do or not, so don't hold me to it. But let's say electric bikes is an example. Then if I open up K2, it's just road bikes. If I open up GT, it's BMX bikes, which is not part of K2, but is part of Mongoose, right? So just showing you how that structure is. And if we go here to mountain bikes, and I click inside here, we see there are products of mountain bikes inside here. And this one with the triangle here indicates that this bike comes in different colors, also known in e-commerce as variants. You have the same product, but it comes in a different size, a different color, or a blend of both, size, color, and maybe other dimensions. So when it comes to products, you're essentially using the PIM to assign products that might be found on a general list here, let's say under all products. These are all products across the product catalog. And it's in a screen like this that you can begin to sort them and put them into the appropriate group and subgroup. So these mountain bikes are all belonging here, but that's not to say that they can't belong into another category. But again, we're being very specific here. We're saying these mountain bikes are not the same as these road bikes, which are road bikes. It's in the biking world, it's completely different. So within mountain bikes, let's say this is the a subgroup here over this group. Bikes, as you can imagine, let's open one up over here. You know, they have information that's specific to them, like its name and its product ID, some teaser text and description. And teaser text, honestly, may be the same from one mountain bike to another. Description is going to be starting to vary, the difference between one mountain bike to another. And then pictures may be more or less the same and different, of course. And then this is where we get into more of the specific attributes that are part and parcel to the PIM, like being able to create an attribute called brand, and therefore we have Mongoose belongs to that brand. Color, obviously bikes come in different colors. Are they eco-friendly? What is the material that this product is based on? Now take a look over here for material. Notice that instead of it being something that you type in, like the brand name, you have to manually input the name, and hopefully you don't make any mistakes. But material is, in this case, a drop-down, and these are the various types of materials that we can pick from. And I show you that because we can add different types of fields and therefore different field types. So if you've ever managed a database before, whether in SQL or back in the day in Access, when you create a field to contain information, you're also defining what kind of information will that field hold. Is it going to contain alphanumeric characters? Will it only contain an integer? Will it contain, in this case, a document? So if it contains a document, wouldn't it be nice to select what that document is? And when you click on the Browse button, this is where you can access the file system and find images or PDFs or CAD drawings. Any type of file or any type of file type could be associated with a document. Okay, and then you see here we have these other accordions. These are other what we call attributes, or also known as product categories, that have more details that are specific around a certain type of product. Okay, now technically electric bikes and their attributes really don't belong in the mountain bikes folder here. So let's right click on this folder. Let's go over here to edit group, and let's just have a look at things over here. So actually, let me paint it to you a different way here. So let I'm closing out of that here, and let's say with e-bikes. Okay, so e-bikes are the new electric bikes. So just like a regular bike, they have two wheels, they have handlebars, they have brakes, they have um, maybe gears, they have seats, etc. Right? And when we look at that here, we have all that information. So when we go here to brand, we also have the material, which we talked about. And when we look at equipment, it has the types of brakes and fork and frame. So all the details that, you know, true bike enthusiasts as well as the people selling it are caring about. Me, I'm just looking at it from a bicycle perspective and how they differ from one and the other. Now, let's say I want to capture more details that are specific to electric bikes that are different from road bikes. And some of those differences would be like electric bikes have a battery. So you see what I'm doing here is that we're looking at products in detail, you know, and from your own world, you have your own products that you know about very in detail, and you'll see similarities from one product to the other. But then when you go, let's say in consumer electronics, you know, we're all working with anything electronic in consumer electronics. So they're electrical, they have a weight, they have a power consumption, etc. Right? But then TVs have a different aspect about their characteristics that are different from refrigerators. TVs are also different from, though similar, they're different from projectors. Projectors have something like the throw and the distance and the lumens and the brightness, which TVs have in a different respect. So when you're the team and now you're like, okay, we need to have these fields that capture details about electric bikes so that when we put products inside there, we have a place to put that information. So that's where we go and turn to settings over here. All right, so settings is where you work in conjunction with PIM over here. So check this out here. So let's look at product fields. So product fields by themselves, this would be product fields that are related to all products within the database or the product catalog. So if I were to create a new field here called, let's say, made in, okay, and I'll just keep it as that truncated name like that, and then the I'll give it a system name and a template name, and the system name is how it's referenced inside the ERP, and a template name is how it's referenced inside the Dynamicweb. And now remember I mentioned, you know, you're making a database here. What is the field type? And by default, it picks text of 5 characters long, and so forth and so on. And then you could have even longer text greater than 255 characters. But since this is made in, as in a country, imagine this is a list box. So instead of the one of our product information enrichment people typing anything in, I just want to make it easy for them. I want them to select from a list the different countries that we typically will have bikes or sell bikes from. So let's click over here to click to add a new option in the list box. So let's call it USA. USA is the value. Let's add another one. And then let's say Mexico, Mexico, and we'll add one more here. And let's say it's Canada. All right. And then we hit save and close. Okay, so now take a look here. Made in, it's a list box. All right, what does that mean now? So if we go back into PIM, and all bikes, whether they're electric bikes or they're mountain bikes, regardless of brand, I want these, let's say mountain bikes that we look here, they need to have the made in field. And I know for sure it's not on this list right now because we have this thing here called visible fields. And again, this is all per user experience. So I'm one admin, I have a look and feel because I'm only focused on whether it's made in the US, Canada, or Mexico. Whereas my colleagues care about other content. They can have their look and feel as they wish. So when I go here to visible fields, let's look for that field that I just made called made in, and there it is. And let's bring it to the included fields that are shown behind the scenes here. Let me hit that arrow there, hit OK over here. And now let's have a look. And we might need to save and close and pop out of here and go back in. Let's just have a look there. And we're searching for made in. Oh, there it is, made in. And remember, it was a list box here, or a list field. And it's radio buttons, so it means you can only select one. So USA, Mexico, or Canada. Okay. So that's one way of doing things. So I'm not only adding a field, I'm adding the field type, making it easier for myself or my team members to be able to select, as opposed to manually inputting that information. And that appears for not just mountain bikes, but let's say I go to GT and there are BMX bikes, and let's open up this one BMX bike and let's see if that made in is available there. And yes, it is available here. Great. So now let's say the power of the PIM to do changes in bulk. So let's say these 3 bikes over here, since I just added that field, they probably don't have any, they for sure don't have any, it's not specifying if it's made in which country. So let's take these 3 products here, and I'm going to do something called a bulk edit, where unlike before in the old days with just the e-commerce product catalog, I could only update one product at a time. Here I can update thousands of products in one fell swoop. So if I select all these 3 and go here to bulk edit, I'm now going to tell it to take that made in field, and it's always in alphabetical order, made in, and specify that they're all made in Canada. Okay, now I hit save. I confirm it. I hit OK. All right, now when I go here to this one, Teocalli, click, and I scroll down, and made in is Canada. All right, so that's a quick way of managing. That's how, that starts to scale up inside of Dynamicweb. And then let's say I had a grouping called, let's say if I right-clicked on Mongoose and I created a new group, new subgroup, and I called it Canadian bikes. Okay, and I hit save and close. All right, and now they're Canadian bikes. I go here to mountain bikes, and let's say I want to put these 3 inside the Canadian bikes subgroup. So the way I do it is I select those 3, and I go here to add to group, and then I specify here under bikes, and then it's in the bikes folder or group, and then Mongoose, and there I made that folder for Canadian. I hit save and close, and it doesn't leave it from here because these are still mountain bikes, but I've also changed its relationship to add it to another thing here. I know it doesn't show up here, but I'd have to just re-index for it to appear. But that's essentially the structure in which that we're working with. So you can have it belonging to multiple groups as long as it makes sense for you to do that. It doesn't have to be in any limited way of appearing here, because ultimately you're going to be feeding a channel that is that wants this information displayed in a certain way. Okay, so another option that we have here is, notice that we have these different flags for different countries, and again, Dynamicweb is steeped in having multiple languages. So right now the language is UK or English, and if I wanted to choose, let's say Danish, and choose that, now it's showing me the Danish language layer for this particular product. So whether you speak Danish or not and you're managing the site, you can be rest assured, okay, left and right mapping, if you will. We have English is all pieced together over here, and then the Danish language is filled in somewhat over here, which is a good sign if you're looking for the minimums, and then so forth. And we see that because I'm looking at one of the mountain bikes here that I changed the characteristic of made into Canada, it's also reflecting it as made in Canada. That shouldn't change, even though the language descriptors about the product happen to be for Danish. And then we have this button over here, just allows you to do a quick preview. So you don't need to publish it to the e-commerce channel of your choice and then view it online, you could have a preview right here. So lots of time-saving features in that respect. Then we also have the feature here, since I'm looking at, let's say, this product here, but let me back out of here so we're looking at it in a different view. The moment I start selecting products here, and I could do one big list of many products on the list, let's say all 5 of these, notice export to Excel is suddenly lit up. So it means that we have the ability to export this to an Excel file. Now, it's Excel, not a CSV file, because it's creating a very well formatted Excel file, so that third party, that independent contractor, that translation bureau that you're working with can get the Excel file and know where, when they open up the file, where they're going to go in to add and enrich the products themselves. So you're not only counting on your own team to do this, you can count on external people to help fill in the blanks and enrich product information. And then when you get that file back, you'll click import from Excel and you'll bring in those changes and update everything in your product catalog with that information. All right, so nice little handy features, and this is all within the realm of creating a warehouse. Okay, so, and I'll just show you a little further. So we had seen under settings where we created a field called made in. That's a single field related to all products. Where they're made in is important. But what happens when we're dealing with a group of products or a group of attributes or a group of these fields? Let's say I made 6 fields, but these 6 fields are related to electric bikes. So that's what we call product categories, okay? And in the product category, I call them, let's say we had ones already in there before, like equipment, which we had seen when we went to PIM, and then I go, oops, let's cancel here, and let's go mountain bikes, and then this one here, and let me take off the Danish layer. And when I go here, notice the accordion helps us guide us. So product fields is one of them, but here, equipment is currently open, and we have brakes, back derailleur, cassette, crankset, all the details of the equipment related to the bike. Okay, and back to settings, that's known as a product category, and it's called equipment. And notice here, equipment has 15 different fields, all related to the equipment. And if I open it up, here are the different field names: frame, fork, wheel, deck, crankset, etc. And then it shows the ERP name, the ID name that we give it inside of Dynamicweb. And it also shows it can show what it has in terms of a, not showing it here. It can show the type of field type it is, so that frame, you're typing in a name for a frame, but it might be a drop-down. So let's show you here with, let's go back up a level here, click cancel that, and with electric bike attributes. So that has 6 fields, okay, and that's something I made. And notice here under usage, it's being used one time by one product. So you don't want to delete it if it's already being used, because then that product will be impacted. So we go here to electric bikes, and then let me actually, you know what it is I have to zoom out a little bit to see it. That's why we didn't see this column. I just zoomed out so that we could see it in more detail here, but it might be a little too wide for us here. Okay, so when we, in the case of product categories, and in the case of this one called electric bike attributes, I was trying to assign these 6 different fields that relate to electric bikes exclusively. So electric bikes being a subcategory within the bicycle category, because it's powered by a battery, it now has attributes that are part and parcel to electric bikes only. So this one is like per charge mileage. So we got a description here in case you don't remember what you call the name as if you abbreviated it. You have the top speed, also known as the max speed. You have the motor, which is often measured in watts or W. Battery size, which is measured in amps or amps hours. And then range in miles, and then a spec diagram, which in this case would be a PDF. And notice here the types, PCM is per charge mileage, which is an integer, a number. The motor might be a decimal number. And then spec diagram, since it's a PDF, it's something that is a file itself. So instead of you typing in the file name, you're selecting it from the browser. So you're actually selecting the file, so you know you're appropriately associating a file with this specification. So now let's see it in action. If I go here to PIM, and then I go here to mountain bikes, or let's say e-bikes here, and here's the two products here. And let's go here to the first one. And now when we look at electric bikes attributes, we open that up and we see the 6 different fields. And that one, that let's say this one is an integer. So it's probably a whole number or not, or maybe I can save a decimal in there, not sure. But let's say I can input that information. But here with spec diagram, this is a file, a PDF file. So when I open this up, I'm not looking at my local computer. I'm looking at inside my file server and what it has for me. So if I were to look at it, let's say it's a specific image, I'm not going to recognize it by file name. I'll look at it from the thumbnail view, and I can find it that way if I want to. So let's say I can select that image, or in this case, it should be a PDF. So I should navigate and find where all the PDFs are saved. If I don't see it, I can always choose upload, and that's where it's looking at my local hard drive to find what I need to push it over. All right, so that's how you manage things behind the scenes in the warehouse. And the last section I'll just finish up with here is the queries. And this is where you can run queries and set up queries very easily to see, I want to see all the newly arrived products or products waiting for translation if you're dealing with that. So just confirming that I'm going to be leaving this section here. So when I click on waiting for translation, it shows me 12 items available for translation. If I were to right click on here and go to edit query, just to show you how easy it is to set up a query here, you're basically saying that these 3 fields must have these conditions and these values in order for it to appear on this list. An even easier one is here under my queries. So let's say focusing in on missing meta description data. So any of you marketing people out there, you know that the meta description of pages and products is essential. And sometimes with going live, people take shortcuts. I know I do. So let's say these 3 bike racks, they're appearing on this list because they're missing meta description. So if I select these 3 again and go to bulk edit, then I can just quickly say for meta description, just say like something like bike racks help you carry things. Okay, not the best meta description, but you get the idea of how we can quickly do a bulk edit, hit save, hit OK. And then technically now those 3 products, those bike racks, the bike back rack is gone from this list because this list only shows missing meta description. So in creating any query, it not only has a benefit of locating information, and if you create that query under shared query, your whole team sees it, but it also benefits the dashboard because you can use a query to create one of these boxes and even configure the box here so that if you wanted, you know how in Excel you could change the color of a cell if it has a negative number, for example, you can do the same over here. So if you're looking at translation and you're looking to go live and the number of products missing translations is greater than 300, maybe you put that box in red, so at a glance you're like, oh my God, it's in red. I got to take care of this today before these products go live on the website with missing information. That's the concept of the dashboard. But then you can also take queries and under email notifications, when information or a query is run, you could send that notification to someone on the team within the domain or external at a Gmail address, for example, send that notification to say, hey, so-and-so, these products and this query is still running and they're still exceeding, let's say, 300 products. It needs your attention, please address it. And that's all built into the PIM. So email notification, dashboard, based off of the queries that you could share with your team or create your own. I'm sorry about that. And then you can use the warehouse to actually construct it and then spitting it out to all the different channels you can imagine, including PDF catalogs or PDF files. So with that, I'll stop here, Angie. I'm going to turn to you. I hope we have some questions from our audience out there.
Yes, we do, Richard. Thank you. The first question that we have is, will this also apply to Dynamics Nav 2016?
Yeah, okay, so good question. Back on the ERP side. So we are compatible with Nav and AX versions starting since 2009, all the way up to D365, Business Central, and F&O, respective to Nav and AX. That includes 2016, so 100% compatible. And what's nice is that single integration point into Dynamicweb not only gives you that benefit into the PIM, but into e-commerce. It actually benefits the marketing people, so users can access it as well for user segmentation. Yeah, so yes, the short answer is yes, and to many other benefits as a result of that.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can we start with the PIM, or do we need to get the whole platform as well?
Okay, yeah, interesting question. Yeah, so the PIM, since we started with the PIM because we already had the e-commerce solution, we recognize that a lot of companies use the PIM solo. So our PIM is capable of being segregated out of Dynamicweb, but still the platform, you still access it the same way, but instead of seeing all these buttons, you just see PIM and settings over here. And then you have still full-blown access to PIM. It's still integrated if you wish to have it integrated, but you don't have all the other bells and whistles that the platform provides. And you can bring in those bells and whistles later on in phases if you wish.
Okay, thank you. Next question, is there a limit to the number of products we can have in the PIM?
No, there's no limit. The limit is the limit may be based on maybe performance wise, but it's since we're tied into your ERP, whatever limits you might have in there, we're gonna get access to all the product information or all the products. So if you have hundreds of thousands of products, not a problem. If you have only 50, not a problem. And then it's just a matter of accessing them here under maybe all products and then starting to group them and subgroup them, or we take the groups and subgroups that you might have in the ERP already and populate the PIM so you're ready on a great step forward to begin enriching it with further. So no limits around that.
Okay, thank you. And what about if, well, are we limited to the number of channels the PIM can support?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, the channels. So we say B2B, B2C, right? Two channels, but that's not the only places that PIM data can go to. So it can go to a PDF, like an offline channel, like a catalog or sales spec sheets, individual spec sheets. It can go to other portals. So let's say you have a dealer portal or your largest customer has their own portal and they want all the brochures kept in that portal for them to make it easy for their people and their reps. You could do that. So whatever online channels you may have today or will have tomorrow, our PIM will be able to support that.
Okay, and how would you go about using the PIM information to say to a new item setup with a retailer? Do you link to GS1 data pools?
Let's see, can you read that again for me, please?
How would you go about using the PIM information to say to a new item setup with a retailer, and they're referencing, do you link to GS1 data pools?
Okay, what is GS1 data pool? What is that? I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not sure. This may be a question that we have to address further to get more information from them.
Okay, here, someone said One World Sync. Okay, so One World Sync is okay, maybe I think I understand that. So One World Sync is one of many types of or maybe two or three in the world, that have like all this consumer electronics information. So I think what I hear is that, so you have in that question, you have PIM information, you have the channel like a retailer or a specific relationship with a retailer, and then you want to send that information over. So the GS1 or One World Sync, you basically have a source of enrichment information that is additional to what you might have in ERP, you might have in a bunch of Excel files. So back with Dynamicweb, just to show you in my deck, where you have here the various sources of where this information sits. It might be handwritten notes, it may be Excel, it may be this One World Sync where you have company that collects product information that you can access to. Um, and then you're collecting all this information to ultimately sell it all the way here on the right, on the far right, to a channel, a marketplace. It could be a retailer, a physical B2B store that needs details, or a B2C channel. So the answer is yes, because the yes part is around where the product information data might come from. Sometimes people make it themselves, but if you were selling, if you were like Best Buy, you're buying the products from LG, Samsung, whatever, and the range from TV sets to refrigerators. And then you're collecting all those details, that information. Some of it might be used in store for printing out labels that you're sticking on demo units sitting in the showroom, or it's product information sitting on a website for that information. So it's supporting the whole gamut for, and the different types of manufacturers, retailers, or um, distributors. So it is what a PIM is, whether you buy it from a third party or you're getting it from our solution. It's designed to work with various vendors and collectors of information, and then spitting it out to a whole bunch of different places where it may live, from offline print and PDF, like um, stickers or things that you're putting on appliances, like on sale, and here are all the details, to any details that you might have about it that you'll be purely kept online. Hope that answers that question.
Okay, an update to that. They came back asking or stating that they were hoping for an electronic syndication, but they weren't sure if that was something that you have available.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Does that
So,
help?
yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you. Let me show you this here. So, like an electronic syndication could be like a feed, an RSS feed, or it could be spitting out to an XML feed that might be used in, let's say, Amazon. So when you're communicating with like fulfillment with Amazon, or let's say Google Shopping, they'll take like a text file, or they would prefer an XML file, still readable by humans, but totally exposable by Dynamicweb. So whether it's a channel to a specific marketplace, or to, some people sell through what do you call that, procurement systems like an Ariba, or they sell it, they're doing an RSS feed, which is another way. Maybe some sites would accept that, or accept an XML feed. We can syndicate it in that respect, to use that term. Hope that helps or answers.
Okay, thank you. And someone is asking that they would like to see what an item data export looks like.
So let's see. If I could show it here. Let's see if I can show it. Let's see if I could show it in one of these feeds here. I may have it here. If not here, then let me show it from another demo site here. This is an XML example of a dump. Let me go to the back end. And if this doesn't satisfy you, be happy to further the conversation online. But let me just show you what we have here in this another demo here where under e-commerce, is it e-commerce or it's under content maybe? We have here channels. And the product information is being fed into an Amazon and Google feed. And if I click on this here, well, it shows me the setup here, actually, wrong one. Let me hit show page. It actually shows me the XML dump. So let me just zoom in so you can see. So it's got some header information, starting information, but when we start to get down here, we see the product description data, the title, the brand, MSRP. There may be inventory somewhere. So you see on and on and on, it's exposing this detail to the recipient. In this case, it's another system like Amazon or Google or Wayfair. So they can pick up this information without trying to build an integration between our solution and theirs. It's just a quick and easy way. So this is one example. This is more of the structure. It's not the actual export of it, but it's what fields would be used in that export.
Okay, and I believe we have one last question. Can this PIM help us with selling to Google Shopping, Amazon, FBA, and other third-party marketplaces?
Yes, so the third-party marketplace world, so you name it, there are many of the different ones. And like I said, like Google Shopping, for example, takes output from text or XML. So you can export this information through any means from a CSV to an XML to a Excel dump, you name it. It could be dumped out with the information that receiving party, that third party marketplace is requiring. So you'll be satisfying their needs, but also now having a whole new channel that you can expose to. So Wayfair, all of the many different ones that are out there that now are accepting content from your product catalog without doing an integration using an XML, for example, output. And then the way you construct this information, though you may collect everything under the sun about your products, including video, Amazon may not want video. They just want to know that you have it in stock and all the other details that fill out an Amazon page and so forth. And that's where, depending on the channel, you can design what that channel's details contain. And then so therefore the output to that channel, whether it's on your website or it's at a third-party marketplace, will have the appropriate content to support it.
All right, well, it looks like those are all the questions that we have for today. Please feel free to contact us or the team at Dynamicweb if you have any additional questions that you would like to discuss.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Angie. I really appreciate the opportunity to present today, and we appreciate your partnership very much.
All right, well, thank you, Richard, for presenting today, and to everyone on today's call, or if you're watching on demand, thank you for joining us. We do have a few more webinars coming soon. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 30th, we have Tom Doran from Innovia Consulting. He's going to be presenting on Power BI integration. And we have more webinars listed on our website. Please visit our events page to register for one of our upcoming webinars. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on another Innovia webinar. Have a great day.